China isn't waiting for the next crisis, they're preparing for it, and they're doing it under the radar with physical gold, mining takeovers, and quiet moves to cut the dollar out of the system. In fact, China's gold reserves have been climbing for years, but the official reports don't come close to telling us the full story. Trade data and import flows suggest that China has been secretly buying far more gold than they would have us believe, quietly stacking in their vaults while the rest of the world stays distracted, positioning themselves aggressively but without sounding any alarms. But they're not stopping there. At the same time, China has launched a global mining acquisition spree, the largest in over a decade, snapping up everything from gold to copper to lithium. And while the US fights back with tariffs, China is busy creating a parallel financial system, one that doesn't rely on the dollar at all. But this isn't just about China. This is about the end of dollar dominance and the rise of something new, something that could arrive much faster than most people even realize. So what proof do we have that China is making these secret gold moves? How will this impact the rest of the world, particularly the United States? And what will the rise of this new system mean for your savings, your retirement, and life as you know it? Let's get into it, starting with what we can see versus what's being hidden from us. Because in this new Cold War, the biggest moves aren't happening in plain sight. China's central bank, the PBOC, has officially reported gold purchases for the last 8 months straight, adding over 1 million ounces since November, which on the surface is fine until you look a little bit deeper into the data, the import records, and suddenly a new picture starts to form, one that is very different than the current narrative of merely buying for diversification. But this secrecy, which I'll reveal in a second, isn't accidental, it's strategic. Following the weaponization of the dollar against Iran and Russia, countries like China have every reason to ensure that their reserves, their wealth, isn't at the mercy of US politics or Fed policymaking. That's why many nations, especially those outside of the US alliance system, have been slowly but steadily converting their US dollar reserves into gold, a true store of value with no counterparty risk. But even transitioning into gold, which sovereign nations should have the right to do, puts them directly in the US line of fire. President Donald Trump has come out and threatened tariffs against any country who pursues de-dollarization or an effort away from the dollar-dominated system we have today. And taking your dollar reserves and transitioning them into gold could absolutely be seen as such. Nations are also now well aware of where the institutions, the global institutions, where their alliance lies. And if you want to take a guess, it's with the United States for now, or at least publicly. An example of this is the BIS, the Bank for International Settlements, commonly referred to as the central bank for central banks. They recently sabotaged a payment system, Project Enbridge, that would have been a direct threat to SWIFT, the Western-led, dollar-denominated payment system that we have today. So it's no surprise then when you look at all of this, that BRICS nations like China have gone dark. They are making their moves under the radar, quietly, secretly, buying as much gold as possible and positioning themselves outside of the dollar in ways that aren't as easy to track. But in any Cold War, controlling the narrative is just as important as controlling the battlefield. And in China's case, where the numbers don't add up, we understand now why they're being secretive about it. But what I want to understand is, what are they really up to, and what does that tell us about what's coming next? And while I cannot confirm exactly how much gold China has been buying, the strongest piece of evidence that we can see that there is something much bigger going on than what's being reported is the price gap between Shanghai and London. Let me explain. Normally, gold trades worldwide at the same price. I'm talking about the spot price, but there can be temporary fluctuations depending on supply and demand, capital controls, currency fluctuations, you name it. But here's where it gets weird. Even in recent years, when gold was cheaper in Shanghai than in London, massive amounts of gold was still being imported into China. But think about it, that doesn't make any sense, right? You don't buy high to sell low. And according to Chinese market rules, all bullion imports must be sold first through the SGE, the Shanghai Gold Exchange. So again, it does not make sense that if gold is trading at a discount locally compared to London, why would you import gold to sell it at a lower price? It doesn't make any sense unless, of course, you're not selling it at all. That you're not importing it for profit, you're importing it for strategy, that you want to keep it. You have no intention of selling it. You're stockpiling it off the record, which leaves one obvious answer: institutional buying. Buying that is going straight into central bank vaults. Now, again, I can't sit here and say that this is what's happening for a fact, but for a country with a record of secrecy that has made it crystal clear they are interested in stockpiling gold, it does seem like the logical conclusion. But what do you think? I want to hear from you. Do you think that China has much more gold than they are letting on? Or do you think this is all overblown? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Because gold from London isn't the only asset they're after either. China is racing to buy physical supply chains, buying up mines that produce raw materials around the world that the future will depend on. Now, if you've been watching this channel for a while, you've probably heard me talk about how we are entering the next phase of a commodity super cycle, and China gets it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we are essentially going to be moving away from fiat paper promises and speculative financial instruments, a bunch of hot air, into tangible, real stores of value, right? Physical commodities are going to be the future. Right now, they are extremely undervalued, but we are going to see that they are going to be the cornerstone of future global power, control, and wealth. Just earlier this year, China snapped up a $1.2 billion gold mine in Kazakhstan, as well as most recently a copper and gold mine in Brazil. They continue to have the corner of rare earth elements in the world. In fact, the US is increasingly more reliant on imports from China for rare earth elements. And while these might sound like isolated deals, it is part of a coordinated strategy by China to lock out the rest of the world from these assets, again, from these tangible commodities that are going to be the future of technology, defense, infrastructure, and wealth. Here at home, the news focuses on 24-hour news cycle, micro movements, small shifts. But do not be fooled into thinking that there isn't a massive, big picture, international shift happening that will directly impact the value of your wallet. See, the biggest players, the one who know what's coming next, they're already positioning. They're positioning outside of the dollar and into real tangible assets, while meanwhile here at the US, we continue to focus on short-term fixes, more printing, more borrowing, things that will ultimately only accelerate the devaluation and ultimately the collapse of the dollar. But as the dollar continues to lose power, the cost of living here at home will only increase. Everything will get more expensive. Your groceries, your bills, your gas, you name it, it's going to cost more. And at first, it will seem like normal inflation, that 2 or 3% that we're seeing right now. Then it will increase to the 9% of what we saw a couple years ago. And then from there, we could expect to see rapid inflation leading to hyperinflation, where life as we know it, our daily life, will not look the same. And while it is scary, because there's nothing you or I can personally do to stop what's already in motion, there is comfort to be found in the fact that we can implement the same strategies that they're using, those in power, the elites, to protect themselves today before it's too late. We study currency life cycles here at ITM Trading. We have seen how they operate throughout history. And what's wild is that every fiat currency in history that's not active today has failed. And yet, somehow, every time they fail, people are still surprised when they do. But not you and I. We see what's coming next. We understand this. And if you want to look at currency life cycles throughout history and understand where we are in the timeline, look at real life examples, we have an incredible free resource for you. It is called the Built to Endure report. And if you have not already downloaded your copy, which you can do by scanning the QR code or clicking the link in the description below, absolutely get your copy right now. Again, it is completely free. And while it is really helpful to understand how these happened in the past, it's also extremely important to understand the parallels of where those life cycles were compared to where we are today, right? The timeline of events. And not only that, but again, how you can take this knowledge and put it into action to protect yourself. I'm very passionate about this report because I obviously study this day in and day out. I do a ton of research, and you will be hard pressed to find this much quality information in one place, right? It all exists in different places, but having it all compiled into one report is incredible. And again, it's free, so make sure you get your copy today. And of course, if you already understand all of this and you are ready to move forward with a strategy that has gold and silver at the center of it to protect your wealth, your hard-earned wealth against what's coming next, you can always call us at the number below. You can click the link in the description, the Calendly link, to set up a time that works best for you. Talk to one of our expert analysts. They are happy to answer any questions you have and find out how we can help you just like we've helped so many other people. Because make no mistake, this new financial war, this battlefield might not be visible, but the consequences certainly will be. And the people who win, the people who come out on top, aren't always the loudest, but they are the ones who are the most prepared. And that can be you too. That is my hope for everyone out there watching. And as always, I so appreciate you being here. I'm Taylor Kenny with ITM Trading, your trusted source for all things gold, silver, and lifelong wealth protection. Until next time.